Thank you, Tammy. So some of the questions that we've gotten, I think you might have hinted at some of the answers, but just for clarification. So one person was curious to know if you would be able to share this year and last year's college planning curriculum. Is that the curriculum that you were referencing will be posted on your website this year?
Yes, but we'll kind of be portioning it out throughout the year. So each quarter we have to upload about 2 lessons. We just don't have the person power to get it all up there at once. So the goal is each quarter we'll get 2 of them up there. So yes, we will eventually have a lot more lessons available for people to use. I often share the scholarship database and some other lessons with other school counselors across my state through our organization. But if you definitely will have my email address, so if you want to shoot me an email, I'd be happy to send some along even earlier than you can access on our website.
Great, thank you. And then another question was looking to see if you had any recommended resources to prepare and assist Native staff and administrators to start the conversation about racism with other Native students.
So there's a librarian at the University of Minnesota, Jody, and I cannot think of her last name, but she works at the Wilson Library at the University of Minnesota, and she actually has a training that they do with all of their library staff on microaggressions, and it's a training that they were expanding to other U of M staff. I think she'd be, if you want to email me, or if someone can pull it up on the website and get her contact info. We're going to try to work with her here in Minneapolis as well. So I think talking about those microaggressions is a good way to start that, how students can notice it, how they can identify it, and then how they gauge whether or not it's worth responding. So for example, you may not want to confront your college professor the first day of class if you start to see things. You may want to wait, you may want to, talk it over with other people. So they have a really good curriculum that they use with staff that I think would be a good start.
Great. And people are writing in some more questions, so thanks for all the questions, everybody. The next one is on how you address issues in Native communities with students, topics such as suicide, drug use, the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Not so much through my groups, but we do have student leadership organizations within the district who address a lot of those issues, and we have community partners here in Minneapolis that have those conversations with students. It's not always something that we can address in school time-wise, but also politically wise. So we really do rely on the student organizations to kind of push their agenda forward. And then sometimes our community partners are the ones who can really help facilitate that for them, such as going to Standing Rock or that kind of thing.
And then are these supports provided for students in the 2 alternative schools that are part of the Minneapolis Public Schools?
Yes. Our college groups are, yes. And then our 1-to-1 senior work, yes, those are provided as well.
Great. And then another question, you had mentioned the district's counseling program has a component of parent communication and collaboration with community members. And how are counselors building a rapport with parents and the community?
So that specifically for us is something that the counselors in the Indian Ed department work with our community partners on a number of things. We just had a training over the last 2 trainings in the last week on working better with American Indian students for teachers and educational assistants. And then we do a lot to help our schools facilitate communication with their families. We help send announcements out in our newsletter. We have Facebook, and then on our website as well. So if schools are having an event and they want families there, we can give an extra push for communication. We can do some coordinating with getting families involved, specifically in special education. We have a special education group that our social worker works with and actually transports families to these meetings. And so we do that work in that way.
Great. Then do you collect feedback from Native students who have been through the program to inform the future counseling lessons and the program moving forward?
We usually evaluate our students at the end of our groups to see how much knowledge they've retained and if they've had changes in attitudes or changes in their knowledge. But we haven't gone to that next step yet to evaluate like former students who've gone through who are at college.
Okay. And this next question might be for you as well as Amanda. We had a participant that just asked about what data that you have on the impacts of suicide or suicide attempts. What data do you have on the impacts of suicide or suicide attempts on other Native youth?
That might be Amanda. I can't think of anything off the top of my head of what resources you could go to find that out.
Hi, hey, yeah, I've been reading that and thinking about that question, and nothing comes to the top of my head, but I think that really calls upon the need to investigate that further, and also in regards to connecting it to education. However, I do want to mention that that work is really going to need to be, and when we're talking about culturally responsive schooling, we also need to be aware of cultural responsive data collection and methodology and research practices. And so particular topics such as that is a really sensitive one, and should research be needed for that, we need to be mindful of the questioning, the protocol, and be culture responsive in that manner and gathering that information. It's very important. You need to better understand that topic. I think it also, it makes me think about the work we need to do to draw relationships with other sectors, educators, public health researchers, and so forth. I'm sure there's good work out there, and so it's really digging in there and digging a little bit more into what we can do to help our Native youth, our people.
Great, thank you. Tammy, we had one other question asking if you would be comfortable sharing the assessments that you mentioned in terms of how you, at the end of each cycle with students that just finished the sessions, and how you collect information on what their perceptions were of the program and the information difference.
Yep. So the evaluations that we use at the end, they're part of the curriculum. So if somebody wanted to email me and get the lesson plans from previous years, we'll have it's a really brief evaluation in there of what the students retained. And then we also play Jeopardy on the computer. So each category of sessions that we had information on, and then the students compete as groups to play Jeopardy and see what they recalled from the year.
Great, thank you. And we did have a participant who just wrote in that SAMHSA has suicide data and impact on Native youth. So that's something that we'll make sure that we can share some of those links as well to everybody. Let me see. I think we're close to answering all of the questions that we've gotten. I'm going to kind of stutter for a little bit to see if anybody has any additional questions.
Jenny, can one thing?
And I think what I'm going to do is I'll start to wrap up if we can go to the next slide. And if there are any additional final questions as they come in, I'll circle back to them. So first, I want to thank our presenters so very, very much for being willing to share the information that they both shared on our webinar today. We really, really appreciate it. So thank you very much. I know in the chat box, one of my colleagues has just put both Amanda and Tammy's email addresses up. So if you have questions, you can email them directly. Their email addresses are there. The session today has been recorded. It is currently being recorded, and we will be sending that out along with slides to everybody who has registered for the event. So even if they weren't able to participate live, they will get the link to the recording and information as well. And so we actually have so before I see one additional question that we'll answer, but before I do that, I do want to just point out that we do have Twitter and website for more information and additional resources that you can follow along. We also have a couple of screenshots of some of our pieces up on the slide as well. We have a question, and I'm actually going to see if one of our colleagues can also answer this one. about whether or not the educational labs ever partner with area health education centers. And I think that would actually really depend on the area and what the question and the practice that you were trying to address. I think that's something that definitely we would be interested in exploring further. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. My email address is also on the slides at the beginning, I believe, as well. So thank you all very, very much for participating in our webinar today. We really appreciate it. There's my email address. I'm on the bottom, Jenny Scala. So thank you again for all your time and effort. We really appreciate it. Amanda and Tammy, thank you again so very much. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for participating.
Thank you.